Hello, this is Pastor Adam with your May Pastor's Report to Ad Council and to the wider Parkview Church community and family. So I am just coming off recording this at 1:43 on Sunday. A wonderful Mother's Recipe Box potluck that United Women in Faith put on, and a shout out to Leon Glinsky who helped set up the tables on Friday. And a shout out to all of you. I think there's like 20 different people, probably more, who contributed their mother's favorite recipe either to cook or their mother's favorite recipe to make. And lots of compliments from everyone I talked to about how delicious everything was. So thank you all for all the hard work of putting on that potluck today. As a reminder, I bet you all know this, but since February, we have had a fellowship based with food every month, or at least once a month. So February, of course, was the all church birthday party. In March, we had our Lenten soup suppers. We had 5 of those, and a lot of you contributed to that too, each of the Wednesdays of Lent in March. In April, we had the Easter brunch before worship, a delicious array of foods. And then, of course, today was Mother's Recipe Box potluck. In June, we'll have fellowship before the special service with storyteller Patty Ketchell coming in. We'll have coffee and treats. And then in July, it's pancakes in the park before the parade, another ministry of the United Women in Faith, but it's going to include all of us here at Parkview to put that on. So anyway, all that to say, all have come roaring back as far as being a church that loves to feed one another and feed the community. And it's been such a joy to be able to be in that food fellowship with y'all throughout this whole year. Some of the other stuff to lift up. Speaking of food, I had lunch this past week with Pastor Jason of Grace Community Church. A big thing that came out was folks at Grace do not want to do the service in the park during the Memorial Day weekend. Sorry for the delays. Memorial Day weekend, and that has nothing to do with you all. It's just that that's always such a stressful weather weekend. In fact, the past 2 years, we've either been had the rain that we met, but we all had to squeeze inside 2 years ago. Last year we had storms, so we had to come here and worship in Parkview, and it's just really stressful, especially for the crew that sets up all the sound machines and just not knowing what it's going to be like that week. So the Grace does not want to do the joint service in the park on Memorial Day weekend. Of course, we'll still have worship on that Sunday, and that is this year Pentecost, a really important Sunday in the church here. So I assume we'll just do regular Sunday worship here inside. I would be open to do an outdoor one, but I know there's mixed feelings about that. So Ad Council, we can talk about that tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but Wednesday, if we want to try to do an outdoor service Memorial Day weekend. If not, just know since it's Pentecost, we'll have lots of special stuff with that reading and the songs, and be sure to wear red, because red is this color of the Pentecost season. Looking at my notes here, which, by the way, if you are a Parkview member that's on the email list, you'll have this entire script emailed to you. So if you get bored of watching me, you can just read from the notes. And if you would like to get on that Parkview email list, be sure to reach out to me. The best way to do that would be either to let me know on Sunday when you see me. You can call the church and leave a message. That's 715-986-2467. Or you can email the church, and it's super simple, parkviewunitedmethodist@gmail.com. Once again, that's if you want to get these notes by email and you're not already on the email list. Okay, back to what I was prepared to say. I really appreciate y'all who were in that spring worship meeting we had last Sunday after worship. We've kind of pivoted from having just a worship committee, instead inviting the entire worshiping community, so everyone who attends worship, have input. Going to be about once a season, what's coming up that upcoming year, ways you can help serve and be a part of the worship life of the church. And I think those meetings, both January here in April last month, have gone really well. So I appreciate y'all's investment and initiative and being a part of that. As a summary of what we talked about last week, if you are interested in offering the final blessing, which we had a couple people do last spring and winter, you can sign up on the sheet. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of the bulletin board in the narthex. You can also sign up directly on that sheet if you want to be a scripture reader. And the newest opportunity is if you want to offer the welcome at the beginning of worship. And that we've never done that since I've been here, so there's some flexibility as far as what that looks like, but I envision it would basically be, it would come up with Celia, the acolyte, and myself, and then I would take a seat behind the pulpit, and then you would just offer a word of welcome and grace to the community. And then if you wanted to lead the time of prayer, that'd be fine. Otherwise, I'll do that. Anyway, I think that could be a fun way, especially in the summer when we have visitors, to have other people in the church um, community offering welcome and words of grace besides myself, which I think I do a good job, but it would also be fun to have you all be a part of that too. Anyway, so all those three options, just go ahead and sign up whenever you'd like for the next couple months. You find that sign up sheet in the bulletin board in the narthex. Don't fill out on that sheet if you want to be an usher or greeter, or if you want to be an accompanist. And the reason is because Mark Fuller does the usher greeter coordinating. So he sends out emails, he does the um, bulletin, hard-sided thing where you pass around. Clipboard, that's the word. He does the clipboards, and he kind of coordinates that and then just lets me know afterwards who signed up. I like to put it on that sheet so that we know each week in case there's a mix-up or something. But it wouldn't be helpful to sign up there without Mark knowing that. So in other words, if you sign up to be an usher in the past through emailing Mark, through doing the clipboard, just keep doing what you always done. And then once you've signed up, I'll write that in just so we remember. Accompanist, you have 4 of them that kind of rotate through, and Elaine coordinates with them. So if you ever want to become an accompanist, I would say, why don't you first talk to myself or Elaine, and then we can kind of help to see if we should put you in the rotation. But once again, I'll write those names, and please don't sign up to be an accompanist without first talking to Elaine or myself. Mark your calendars. Next thing on my agenda to talk about, the Turtle Lake Fair, which is this year Friday the 7th of July through Sunday the 9th of July. Georgina just mentioned today in worship, our church is signed up to be doing the shifts for opening on Friday, which is about 10 a.m. through, I think she said about mid-evening. We don't have the closing shifts Friday, but all of Friday we'll have to fill out that and provide service at the food stand. So that's Friday the 7th. Mark your calendar for that. And then on the 9th, on that Sunday, the United Women in Faith are going to be doing pancakes in the park before the parade, which would happen before the traditional time of the worship service at 10. More details to come on that, but just kind of block off that early morning on Sunday the 9th. We'll have the parade. This year I won't be doing emceeing the parade. I'll actually be with the float and be part of that, which I'm really excited about. Got some ideas I'm kicking around in my head. I'm sure some of you are too. And we're going to be marching the parade. And afterwards, we have this idea of doing what's called root beer and hymns. And I think we'll be able to get a grant through the organization that's given us grants for a few other ministries, Thrivent for Lutherans, but they give it to Methodists too. And I envision we could get some root beer, maybe some commemorative cups, possibly, if we have enough grant money, and then make songbooks. We can do something like the Songs of Faith of the last 125 years. Where it's kind of playing upon the theme of this year being the 125th anniversary of Turtle Lake. And there's been a lot of great hymns that people like to sing along that have come out in the past 125 years. So there's still some details to work out with that. I do think it's going to all come together. So mark that off after the parade. And be sure as you see people and they start planning their trip to Turtle Lake for the fair weekend, make sure after the parade you come up back to the park because we're going to have some root beer and hymns and fellowship. Again, more details to come. Just mark your calendars for now. Koinonia singers are scheduled to stop here in Turtle Lake again. I heard from Bob Benson, the local kind of coordinator with them. It's going to be Tuesday, June 20th. Same thing as previous years, about a 5 o'clock dinner, 7 o'clock performance, and then ideally ice cream afterwards. Bob asked if we can just kind of keep the same arrangement where we would host the female participants and chaperones. We would do the ice cream afterwards. And then one of our hospitality co-chairs, Tony Monfortin, is penciled in to offer pizza to the group. Tony and Joe own the pizza place here in town, if you didn't know that. So that'd be a really exciting way that we could probably offer some good stuff. There'd still be plenty of opportunity for other things we would have to furnish for that meal, such as drinks and maybe desserts, probably some fruit, and maybe some vegetables. But let's be honest, once there's pizza, they're just going to want to eat that. We should probably have a well-rounded meal for them. So once again, that's kind of a keep in your mind. That's several weeks away. So we'll kind of get that sign-up sheet going out later. And then also as we get the Facebook announcement made, and probably some posters. If you can, please help just spread the word about that, especially this year because we know so early. I think it could work out better. If you remember last year, we just didn't know until like the week of that they were coming. So it's really hard to get word out. So lots of time now. As you see people in your life, tell them to mark that on your calendar. And then as we round out this month, we'll start looking forward to how to make that all happen as smoothly as it always does. Annual conference this year is June 9th through 11th, which is a Friday through Sunday over in Green Bay. That means lay delegate Wayne Gronke and I will be traveling in person for the conference this year. As a side note, I know there has, at least at ad council level, some discussion about how we can make that more affordable for the church, even though it's a tough thing because it is really nice to be in person for those annual conference gatherings, but I know it is an expense the local church has to bear. Just know that Wayne and I, we're going to be sharing an Airbnb or rental house with some of the other clergy and lay delegates from our circuit, and then also carpooling, and then we're getting meals figured out. So trying to do our part to kind of help stay under budget this year for annual conference. Anyway, what's more interesting to you all, I'll be gone on that Sunday, and so will Wayne. So the idea is that we're going to have Patty Ketchum, who's that wonderful storyteller who has done events out at Georgina's wedding venue for the United Women in Faith when they did that years ago. She did an event here in the fall or winter, I can't remember. She's going to come back and she's going to dress up as Susanna Wesley, so the literal mother of Methodism, John and Charles Wesley's mom. She's going to just talk about her faith, her being as character Susanna Wesley. She'll bring all of her apartment stuff, so like her set that she'll be in actually look like her home apartment toward the end of her life. I know Patty is really excited to come back to this church. She really enjoys what she receives here as far as hospitality, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to just kind of remember, who we are as the people called Methodist, especially on a really important weekend in Identity of Methodist, which is the annual conferencing that we do. So that's going to be definitely something. Friends, neighbors, adult kids, grandkids, workers, strangers, everyone and anyone's invited. I've reached out to our local circuit churches, so Barron and Cumberland, and asked them if they wanted to, instead of trying to find pulpit supply that Sunday, because their pastors will be gone too at annual conference, they just want to come, and there's a little bit of openness to that. So at the worship meeting last week, we kind of discussed the idea of why don't we have coffee and treats an hour before the service. So hopefully we get some of our friends from Barron, Cumberland, and the Turtle Lake community that we can just enjoy each other's company and then go in for that wonderful worship service that'll be led by Susanna Wesley. Very excited about that. Other annual conference things, there is going to be at some point the big workbook that has all the petitions and action items and resolutions, all that stuff, has not been released yet. Usually it's about 3 weeks out they release it, so it gives the delegates time. The plan is on Sunday the 4th, so the Sunday before Wayne and I are gone, after worship, he and I are going to be available to kind of go through some of the big highlight things that we'll be talking about and voting on annual conference. And then if you all want to have input or you need questions or anything like that, be a good chance to kind of know what the business of the annual conference is for this year. Once that workbook is released, like I said, probably the next couple of weeks, I'll go ahead and just email it out to all of you again. So if you're not on the email list, now would be a good time. You can get that wonderful link. You'll also be able just to find it directly from the conference website. And then I'll print maybe 2 or 3 of them to put out paper copies underneath the bulletin board. So if you would like that, you can kind of look over that for the hopefully a couple days before the post-worship meeting that Wayne and I will host on June 4th. Let's see. And then finally, summer edition of the Parkview Epistle. Believe it or not, summer is coming up right around the corner. I'll try to have that all ready for distribution and worship on June 4th. And that means if you have anything you want to contribute to the Parkview Epistle, the newsletter, just have that in by me through email, a paper copy you give me, whatever means, by the final Tuesday of May. So I think it's like the 30th of May. So I can have time to get that all put together, printed off, and sent out to everyone. Okay, friends, it's been an exhaustingly fun day of worship and fellowship, Holy Communion, and just a lot of the interesting things you forget about potlucks until you're in it. I am exhausted, but in the best way. I hope you all had a great day, whether you're able to come join us in person or if you've just been in your own way of fellowship and worship with the Lord. In all ways, may God's peace rest upon you all. Amen.